Okay, folks, it's your buddy Mike Messier. Yes, this is how I look. You like my new hat? Well, this will be Mike's instant movie review. She Came from the Woods, horror film. First off, I'm in Tampa Bay, Florida, or somewhere near Tampa Bay. I'm in unfamiliar parts. I was at an AMC theater somewhere in this area, Woodlawn Theater, and nice theater, nice AMC theater. Pretty decent crowd. Horror film. She Came from the Woods. First off, should you see it or not? If you don't like gore, if you don't like horror, if you don't like killings, don't see this movie. If you do like kind of throwback horror, kids at a camp get killed type of horror, then go see this one. I did enjoy it. I liked it. As an intellectual, well, I'll just give you the whole fucking experience. First of all, I was not in a good mood upon entering the theater. Not the theater's fault. Other circumstances today have pissed me off. I won't get into it. But I go into the theater. I sit down. It's a nice theater, nice auditorium, and looked like a pretty decent crowd. Maybe, I don't know, 20, 30 people in there on a Friday night, 7:15. I take my seat. I'm quite comfortable. The movie starts, and basically first we have like a little fucking I guess spoilers, because I'm going to start talking about the movie now. We have a flashback scene to like some type of, 100 years ago, some girl in a black dress, like a little girl, and then she's walking through the woods, and then some creature, like, fucking weirdo attacks her or whatever the fuck. Then we flash forward modern day. It's actually not modern day. It's 1987, which we pick up soon enough from some of the fashions and the fact that they're still using like push button phones. They didn't do the rotary phone bit. They did like the old school push button on the wall phone. And we're in a camp, like you've been here before, Camp Crystal Lake or whatever the fuck. This was called, I believe, Camp Briarwoods, I want to say. And Briar Brook, perhaps. Briarwoods, Briarbrook. To get to the long and short of it, starts off like many a camp film. Boys are looking to fuck girls and so forth, and everybody's happy. And then we meet the grandpa of the camp. Apparently this camp is run by a family. I'm slow in my speech tonight because my fucking tongue is burning up. I was just the second to last customer at Chick-fil-A. I had spicy chicken tenders, and they're fucking spicy because now my tongue hurts. And drinking this diet lemonade's not helping, okay? So they need to give me like a piece of cornbread or a fucking apple or a bowl of milk so I can lap it up like a cat so I don't burn myself all night. But in any event, let's go back to the movie review. I see an actor who I'm familiar with. And he's one of those guys that you're like, oh, that's that guy. And I wasn't sure if it was him or not because his hair had grown out quite nicely. It was William Sadler. Now you might be saying, well, gee whiz, Mike, who's that? Well, do a quick IMDb search or Google search or whatever the fuck. What most folks may remember him as, well, maybe not anymore, but he was one of the other police officers or the security guards in the prison in the classic Green Mile, along with Tom Hanks. He was the blonde guy. He was also in some TV show that everybody watched that I didn't a couple of years later. And I remember him the first time I saw William Sadler. The first time I saw him that I can remember, I was quite a youth. An episode of Tales from the Crypt when he plays like an assassin type of guy, like a hitman who's put out to kill people, and he's going to a strip club to kill a go-go dancer. And Sandler is also doing like straight to camera stuff. This was before The Office, okay? Tales from the Crypt, 1987. So he looks directly in the camera, and then he looks up at the go-go dancer, and she's shaking around in her cage. And then he looks to the camera and says, as far as getting them into them panties, it's the oldest rule. Treat the whores like queens and the queens like whores. And then he drinks his fucking bottle. I don't know if I said the line perfectly right, but it always stuck with me as pearls of wisdom from Tales from the Crypt on how to deal with women. And maybe that's explained a lot about my pathetic goddamn life. But anyway, we move on. And William Sandler, I was wondering, is that him? Is that not him? Because of the eyes, you know, like the eyes was what was making me think it was him, but the hair was so different on Sadler, sorry, William. His hair has grown out so nicely. Kind of had like a Nick Nolte look, you know, from Down and Out in Beverly Hills, or the Dude type of look, or whatever the fuck. But anyway, we move forth, and basically things go awry when there's this one camp counselor who has a hard-on for this young lady, and she's another counselor, and then all the friends are like, well, this is the last night of camp, you better make your move. So the kids are all kind of like picking on this kid to make a move on this girl that he likes, because it's the last night of camp. So she's standing off on a little dock thing, and he goes over, and it's, you know, all teenagey and awkward, and he's, you know, she's like skipping a stone, but she doesn't know how to do it, so he tries to help her learn how to skip a stone properly, and he's doing the whole guy thing where, like, you're standing behind the girl and touching her hand and helping her skip the stone, and then they share a laugh, and he thinks they're sharing a moment, so he makes his move, he tries to kiss her, and she retracts. And then she's like, but I have a guy at college. And he says, no, you don't. And she's like, well, what do you mean? And he's like, you don't have a guy at college. I would have found out about it. I would have known about it. Someone would have told me. And she's like, And he's like, only has to last for one night. And then she's appalled and disgusted by his testosterone-filled body. And she runs off the dock, and she goes to find comfort in her female friend by the fire. And you're like, oh boy, what a situation. And then the dude that just got rejected, as the two of them are talking about him, basically, the guy comes up, and he's got like a bigger stone in his hand, and he clocks her upside the head with it. And then he starts smashing her repeatedly in the face while her female friend is screaming bloody hell. And then a bunch of other kids from the camp come in and try to make the save, and he's like smashing them with the fucking stone or whatever the fuck. And then everyone's trying to fight this one guy who's like possessed by evil. And then finally this guy named Mike comes in from behind with the save and stabs the fucker with a big ass fucking jackknife, like a big knife in his hand, and stabs him in the back. And then the evil guy turns around and goes, and then Mike stabs him in the fucking stomach. So Mike's like the hero. There's this other fuck, I think the guy's name was Dylan, the character, who kind of was like a knockoff of what's his dick in the Lost Boys, Kiefer Sutherland, like kind of had that mullet thing going. So long and the short of it is, now we've got two dead kids. We got the dead little, you know, the dead girl, you know, I guess she's a college girl, and the dead guy. And then all the kids go running back to like the meal hall, the mess hall, whatever the fuck. And they're telling, you know, the mom of the camp, who is the woman, her character name was Heather. She's the daughter of Sadler's character, Grandpa. So basically, Heather, the mom, sees all these fucking kids coming in. They're all screaming a mile a minute. And she's like, one at a time, one at a time. And then they tell her, you know, hey, Mike's like, I just killed this fucking guy because he killed the girl. And she's like, mom's like, no, I don't believe, really? And, yeah, okay. So then mom's like, I gotta call the police. So she goes over to the fucking phone. She pushes 911 on the old push button phone. She puts the phone up to her fucking ear. And then the fucking phone explodes. And it fucks up her ear. It's like, ow, that could have hurt. And then her ear's all bloody and mangled, and she didn't complain about a loss of hearing. That might have been a good thing for reality, just like if she had like a moment where she couldn't hear anybody because she had like a ringing in her ear. But they didn't do that. They did not do that. If I was on this movie, they would have. So they basically, hey, what's wrong? Blah, blah, blah. And then we can't call the police because now the phone's dead. And so we're all going to split up into pairs, and we're all going to make sure that the bad guy is dead, and blah, 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 and so forth. And then they go off to do this. Dylan is, the fucking, what's your dick, the guy from the movie type of guy, the Lost Boy knockoff. He's still trying to get some action from one of the girls. She's repelled. She's disgusted. Hey, my best friend just got murdered and you want to have sex with me? And he says, yeah, it'll make us feel better. And she's like, ah. And so Mike and Dylan have like a series of fights. Mike is more or less the good guy in this entanglement. Dylan's the bad guy. Heather, the mom, also has 2 sons that work at this camp. And of course, one of the sons has every guy in this camp wants to fuck some girl. I mean, that keeps happening. That's a running motif. So the younger son has a girl that he wants to bang. That girl has a homosexual brother who's insulted by Dylan several times. There's like this, Dylan, spoiler, it turns out that he's a closeted homosexual of sorts, and he's bullying the poor gay kid because he's secretly gay himself. So on and so forth. A lot of stuff packed into this thing. One thing that I'm remembering now that I did not like, I believe it was Dylan makes a comment. He uses the term, "This is next level." Well, that term has really come into vogue maybe the last 5 to 10 years with video game culture kind of seeping into regular culture. In 1987, no kid said, "This is next level." Nobody fucking said that, okay? So I just noticed these things when pop culture vernacular or modern slang is used in movies that didn't have that slang term used at the time. So Sadler or whoever the fuck, they did not say next level any goddamn thing in 1987, sorry. But keep moving forth. Oh, I was going to mention, I've actually met William Sadler. It is William Sadler because at the end credits, it said produced by William Sadler and starring William Sadler and the Bloomquist boys, who I've seen something. I don't know if they do stuff for Blumhouse, but Bloomquist, Eric and, I want to say Connor or something, Bloomquist, it was kind of like a brother tandem, like, fucking came up with this thing and wrote it and directed it, and Sadler's involved. And it was filmed in Connecticut. And guess what? I know a few other people that were involved in this thing that I'm going to mention in a minute. But I actually met Sadler, very nice guy, for the, minute that I spoke to him on the set of, I thought the movie was called Frank the Bastard. And not really that interesting of a story, but I'll tell it. I just did some fucking extra work in Boston, whenever the fuck, years ago, for this Frank the Bastard movie. Drive up to the middle of massive fucking nowhere, Cheez-Its, and get there, and it's an overnight shoot, and we're filming at like some rich person's house, and what do they have for amenities for the extras? Well, they have porta potties, which basically turns my fucking stomach and makes me disgusted. And so I did not return because I refuse to. Any situation that involves porta potties, it's beneath me, okay? So I just do not, I'm not a porta potty user. I abhor those goddamn things. And I was just thoroughly repelled and disgusted that this fucking picture, this movie, was expecting people to use a goddamn porta potty when there's a perfectly nice house with working plumbing, I'm assuming. I guess the nice rich people who are renting out the house didn't want the low class extras like myself using their precious toilets. But I was just disgusted. I did not use the porta potty that night, and I did not return for future extra work. So that's what happens. So what else? Also on that, so I got to see Sadler underneath the tent, William Sadler, and I got to tell him my fucking Tales from the Crypt story, and he seemed appreciative that I remembered such an obscure part of his life. But that's my little hint for dealing with celebrities, is if you do get a moment to talk to them, like a fucking Mark would go up to Sadler and say, "Oh, I saw you in The Green Mile with Tom Hanks and Michael Clark Duncan." But someone like myself, who's next level, I will say, "I saw you in Tales from the Crypt in 1987. This is what your goddamn character said." So that's how I live, okay? Also on that movie, because I'll never get a chance to talk about this Frank the Bastard movie ever again. I don't know if it was ever finished and or released, to be honest with you, because I've never seen it. But there was a fight scene where it was like a African American lady who I think was a big part of this movie, like basically fighting Sadler. I think his character, and they both had like fucking machetes in their hands, like big scary weapons, knives. And they were kind of like, going through the choreography of this fight scene, and I was pretty impressed because like they were like using these big knives, like clashing them against each other. And then when they called cut, me being observant, I watched to see that one of the I shouldn't be laughing, but one of the weapons guys or prop guys like took one of the fucking machetes and like took something to test how sharp it was, and it just sliced through whatever that test object was. And the guy was like, "Oh shit, maybe we ought to fucking dull these blades a little bit." Because, I mean, they're basically playing with lethal weapons. And so, there you go, film industry. Always be on your, be cautious of these weapons, folks, because you never know who's not doing their job properly. Anyway, that wasn't Sadler's fault. It was whoever the fuck was in charge of weapons' fault. But that was the movie back then. Going back to this movie, I'm an intellectual guy. I'm a next level thinker. So, I mean, for me, this type of movie, you might think, well, gee whiz, Mike, was it up to your cunning intellect? You write books, you write novels. Distance from Avalon, your short film Disregard, has just won 7 awards in its first 6 weeks of being released at film festivals. How did this camp horror film match up to you? And the thing is, I just enjoyed it. Like, to me, this movie was, it's not The Exorcist, it's not next level horror film, it's not whatever the fuck, but I liked it. I liked, I guess I'm kind of tapping into my younger horror film self, because this was a throwback to 80s horror films. Kids go to a camp and get killed. But the kills, so to speak, the violence was good. The blood was, I wouldn't say believable, but it was like kind of fun, like fun blood and guts and stuff. And I'll get to that in a minute. But I overall enjoyed the movie. I didn't quite follow the tie-in with the witch and the curse and all this stuff, but I didn't really feel like I needed to. Also, like I said, I was in a shitty mood going to this fucking movie. So this movie kind of cheered me up. But yeah, I mean, there's like a witch story. I mean, I'm not going to rush out to see it again, like, oh, I have to figure this out. But I did like the movie. I thought it was fun. I had my share of grunts and groans, like at certain kills, and you could tell that this movie was not a huge budget thing. The music was very good. And the way that, like, you could, just being around people that make horror films all the time, you kind of know, like, some of the shortcuts, like you pan to a shot of somebody dead, but then you do the audio cue of the swooshing of the knife or the swooshing of the object or the squish of the flesh. You put the audio in, and then you kind of do a hard cut to the violence, to the end shot, in order to create in the viewer's mind the impression that you just saw something when you didn't see anything. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't see the impact of the death blow. You just heard it, and then you saw the result. And in your mind, you think that you saw something you didn't see. So once again, getting back to the thing I said in the first minute, if you like horror films, if you like throwback horror, you'll probably like this one. It's not so much a psychological mindfuck. It's just like a fun blood and guts horror film, in my opinion. At the end of the movie, I was pleased to see some names, and I was wondering, okay, Uh, I wonder where this movie was made, you know? And here are the results. So the first person, front and center, a friend of mine, I'd say a friend. I mean, we don't play chess together, but a friend, a movie friend, let's say, Amanda Pepin, very nice lady, a mom. She runs I believe she runs a boutique in Connecticut, a women's salon, hair place, all that good stuff. She was the hair and makeup lady on this movie, and I worked with Amanda several times, mostly on Woodhaven Pictures or Verdi Films with my buddy Tommy Nanucci and David Gear and so forth. And Amanda is quite good at her work. So when I saw her name as hair and makeup, and I know that she probably busted her ass on all those special effects of kills, I was quite happy for her that she got this gig, and here's this movie that she was involved in prominently. And then I keep watching the credits, and under the stunts is Nathan Quattrini. And now you might be saying, well, gee whiz, who's that? Well, Nathan Quattrini was a guy that I knew, God, 12 years ago, 15 years ago. He lived in my vicinity, maybe 25 minutes from me. Nice guy. He was always into horror. He had a fanzine for a while that he wrote and published, and was nicely produced too. And he actually wrote an article about me. So, of course, I like him for that. And Nathan's a good guy and a filmmaker and so forth. So he was, I'm assuming it's the same Nathan Quattrini. I suppose there could be more than one, but I think it's the same guy. It's a pretty unique name, let's say. And Nathan was also very good at stunts, so I'm pretty sure it's him. So he was there as a stunt guy. And, I kept looking through all the credits to see if I knew any other names, and I did not. So, 3 people in this movie. Here I am in Tampa Bay, Florida, going to see this wonderful film. Really didn't see a preview for this thing, didn't see a trailer. I just go in cold. I wanted to avoid the Titanic 25th anniversary crowds. You know what I mean? So I went to see this one. Glad I did. I see William Sadler. Like I said, big fan ever since Tales from the Crypt. I see my friend, my movie friend Amanda Pepin, mom, very prolific hair and makeup person, very good at her work, and Nathan, very good at his work. So I was pretty impressed. There's also a lot of zombie kids in this movie, like kids from the camp who get possessed by the witch. That was kind of fun and creepy. So I enjoyed the movie. I mean, I think it's a movie where if you just need a fun horror film, go see this movie. If you want to, if you want the best of the best horror films of all time, I mean, you're talking Exorcist, you're talking, Friday the 13th, Part 1, the original. I don't know. But I mean, for a fun horror film, I suppose you could sit around and rent this thing or watch it at home, stream it, whatever the fuck. But I enjoyed seeing the theater. I thought it was fun. And it was nice, like I said, where I'm here in Florida, and I see films and I see the people that I've known and people I've done stuff with, and they're continuing with their goals and their passions and so forth. I feel happy for them, and I'm glad that they're still doing their thing. So congratulations, Amanda. Congratulations, Nathan. William Sadler, always a pleasure to watch him in cinema. One of those guys, I think it's an unsung hero of cinema, to be honest with you. Just a great actor and so forth. I want to say that William Sadler, oh God, was this him? Was he in the Stolen Summer from fucking Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, their Project Greenlight? Was that? I think William Sadler might have been the father who does like the group hug. If you remember, I mean, this is pretty obscure shit. And then the second season of Project Greenlight was the Battle of Shaker Heights with Kaya LaBeouf, of all people. And I've dealt with his management unsuccessfully in my life. So anyway, you stick around this goddamn business enough, you start to see people you know and people you've passed through like ships in the night getting somewhere with their lives. So throw me a bone, you fucks. Anyway, that's it. congratulations, good movie. Subscribe to Mike Messia YouTube channel, Mike's Instant Movie Review.